Well, thank you very much, David, for inviting me. Good afternoon. My name is Neil, and I am an alcoholic.
Hi, Neil.
Yeah, David was my very first sponsor. When I have, I'll just start with this. I have right around 7.5 months, 226 days today. I have two home groups, the Skyway meeting, and then Empire Way. I have multiple service positions. I do coffee and setup at Skyway. I was just elected to Empire Way as the Empire Way setup coordinator. I secretary meeting called Sober Diversity in the Lake Ridge neighborhood. It's a very intimate, great meeting where we discuss the daily reflections. And on Friday, I secretary meet out at Fremont Hall called the Nudge Along Group. It initially was a 4-step workshop where I wrote my 4-step. I spent 4 or 5 weeks out there writing. And then once the house or the hall manager stopped feeding us all dinner, it switched from a 4-step workshop group to just a regular meeting. It's an hour-long meeting. And since I'm the secretary, I've forced us to stay kind of true to that, where the old timers come in and I ask them to share how them and their sponsors got through certain steps, because we all hit roadblocks along the way. So let's talk about that. And then for the newcomers, they talk more about hey, this is where I'm stuck and this is how my sponsor's helping me. And then there's always the people who are on their first or second day kind of rolling in. And at Fremont, a lot of those first or second day people have all their clothes in their Target bags and they're really just coming off the streets. And so we just try to give them a smile and let them say whatever they need to say. But a bit about my story, but that's kind of what I've been up to. I go to meetings. I go to 7 to 8 meetings a week. I read the books. Like I said, David was my first sponsor. He kind of got me started, but what I started to learn is he's really busy and he's great and helped me build the foundation to what I have now. I needed someone who had a little more time for me we read the book, almost a big book, almost every day. We pray, we meditate. He gives me very rigorous homework on the 12 and 12. And it's just elevated my program. So my story is I grew up in rural Northeast Washington in a shack in the Colville Reservation, like a true shack. Up until about 6th grade, we had an outhouse. We had all wood stove or wood heating, no washer dryer. My mom was severely mentally ill. I think bipolar now as I've gotten older and learned my own diagnosis and what's going on with me. She spent most of her time laying in bed crying. My dad was extremely physically abusive. He was a hay farmer, firewood cutter, tribal mechanic. A lot of people ask when I tell my story, what were you doing there? You look like a freaking Viking. What are you doing living on a reservation? My dad's native and all his family on his side are native. Just kind of got whited out the family a little bit and ended up with this giant blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy. So it was beautiful growing up on the reservation. I mean, it was rough. My dad was, like I said, really extremely physically abusive. I won't get into his stories with him, but it was also a lot of fun. Not a lot of freedom. I had a lot of freedom. I could basically do whatever I wanted. I had motorcycles, horses. I did have to start. I was the one about 8 years old. I was the one that had to make sure my brother and I got out of school on time. I was the one that cleaned the house. I did the laundry in our bathtub. And that, when you're 8 years old, that's the last thing you want to be doing. But I had to make sure all our food was cooked, all that kind of stuff. And so, you can also guess an 8-year-old doesn't know much about nutrition, or really how to take care of family. But we got through it. I got through it. By the time I hit high school, I was pretty good. I had some moments. My first real mind-altering drug was I was out riding my dirt bike around this place called the Agency, which is all the government buildings that manage the reservation. And there's some housing around there. And I was out riding my dirt bike, terrorizing everybody with my dirt bike. And I pulled into this garage and huffed some gas and in this abandoned garage. And out of nowhere, this tribal cop shows up and I look up and he's talking to me, and because gas is a hallucinogen. I saw this giant brown tick telling me you can't be doing that, and he brought me to jail. And then my dad had come get me. That was a fun evening for me. Then, like, I decided the only way I was getting out of there was to straighten up, like, be the goodest kid that could be good. I also had a giant growth spurt. I was about this size as a freshman in high school. I spent the summer bucking hay, chopping wood, doing man work. Showed up my freshman year. Found out, I kind of knew I already knew this, but I found out I was really good at football. So I dug in, got really good at football. Got my grade. I had straight A's. And it wasn't when I was a football player, but I played football, but I was not a football player. I was not one of those bro-y guys in the room, like picking on all the other kids. I felt like my life was a job. Like my job was to get the hell out of Rule Eastern Washington. And so there was no drinking, there was no partying. It was just football, wrestling, and grades. I kind of had girlfriends here or there, but nothing like that. And then my first real drink was my senior party. They give us a bunch of cash for graduation. I went and found the sketchy dude who never left town and was still hanging out with high school kids and gave him some cash and said, "Give me something to drink." And I didn't know anything. He got me a fifth of 151, and I downed that stuff in like 5 drinks, and then like woke up in the morning with puke all over me, and I demolished the house, and everybody was terrified of who I was. And then I didn't drink again until college. I got a football scholarship from Walla Community College. Made the team because you get a scholarship, you still have to make the team. Made the team. We had a big celebration party. The freshman initiation was to play the game called Around the World, and we just kept drinking and drinking and drinking until all the booze was gone. It was like vodka, like hard alcohol from around the world. Same thing happened. I woke up in the backyard covered in puke, and I'd like beat up 2 townies and wrecked this guy's house too. But it was a football team, and they're like, "No, this is just what happens." And I was like, "Okay, maybe I just need more practice drinking." Did it again. And then, like, that was my early college drinking. I lost my football scholarship. And then I'm going to fast forward because we don't need to, like, you all know how to get drunk. You all know how, like, that all works. I'm going to fast forward to the end of it before I jumped into AA. I had a really successful political career. The last 13 years, I owned my own consulting firm and lobby firm, high 6-figure salary that I was earning myself. I was part of some of the biggest public policy bills in our state. Like, when everyone's like screaming defund the police on the streets, I was the one in Olympia negotiating the bills that actually do that. I was a part of some of the big negotiations around the largest climate change bills in the nation because Washington is on the forefront of that. And I was a part of like making Washington one of the most progressive states in the nation. And it's like one of these things I'm really proud of. But at the same time, I couldn't maintain it there at the end. So March 2022 is when I finally, after 30 years of like living on the edge of unmanageability, like crazy stuff throughout my life, like truly unmanageable stuff, car crashes, run-ins with cops, 3 suicide attempts, 2 trips to the mental hospital that I always jokingly call my grippy sock vacations. And it's just like my life, but it was also fun. I had a really good time in this time, and I was making lots of money. I could basically do what I want, jumping out of airplanes, ride motorcycles, swim with sharks, had so many different girlfriends. My life was kind of fun at the same time, but it was right there and unmanageable. And then my mom died. My girlfriend at the time was going through IVF. She had 2 miscarriages. So my mom that I took care of when I was a little boy finally died of COVID, and I sat with her, and that screwed up my brain pretty good. My girlfriend was going through IVF, had 2 miscarriages. I was in the middle of my legislative session working on big policies around drug possession reform. I don't know if you followed any of that in the news, but Washington had just changed majorly how we deal with drug possession laws in Washington. So I was like in the heart of these really intense negotiations, and my mind collapsed. I always say that, like, my joke is I'm the Wile E. Coyote riding this Acme rocket held together by duct tape, chasing the Roadrunner, and then all of a sudden the duct tape comes off and I go tumbling through the desert. The Roadrunner turns around and goes, meep, meep, and then scampers off. And I'm sitting there, and instead of like what normal people do, was go get help. Like when your rocket breaks down like that, you go get help. What I did was light my rocket on fire, found as many old fashions without sugar and a splash of absinthe as I could, and and then go home with a case of Rainier and slam that down and smoke 3 joints and eat a handful of mushrooms and cry on my living room floor, listen to Alan Watts praying to the universe would just absorb me because I didn't want to be a part of this anymore. I was done. I don't want to be a part of it. And that lasted about 8 months. And it ended with me waking up one morning saying, I'm done. And God, you're not just like taking me out. You're not letting me be unhuman. You're not just coming and get me out of here. So I created this, and I'm in a total manic psychotic episode. It's funny you call us suspects, because in my mind, I thought I was a suspect for domestic terrorism, that my colleagues had like called the FBI thinking that I was going to blow up the Capitol building. But that was what my mind was telling me at the time. And that wasn't real, but that's what my brain said. So I devised this pulley system. I don't have time. Pulley system out of, because I'd actually really like to talk about the program because I'm getting a lot out of it. Anyway, I tried to kill myself, spent 9 days in a mental institution, and then crawled into the Sky meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. So Tuesday, I was like just out of the hospital, took a shower, went there. I don't even remember what I said, except for I need help. And then I met Peeps and Jerry, and they like hugged me and they brought me in. They told me go to the Empire Group, and then I met David, and David like really helped me get started. Go down and buy a book, do this, do that, do this, call me every day. And that kind of kept me alive because I was like, I still don't really be here. So like, one, I did admit I was like my life was unmanageable. It was absolutely bananas. And two, it needed to be, I was insane and I needed to be restored to sanity. 3, yeah, God, take it. I've been asking you for 8 months. Like, take this shit. Take it away from me. I can't do it anymore. I need your help. And I guess God said, yeah, you got to stay there on the planet for a little bit longer. We need you for something. And I'm not sure what that is yet. 4, I did 2 4 steps now. And I dove in because I spent 8 months laying on the floor crying, like going through my head every terrible thing I'd ever done in my life. So yeah. 5, get that out. I want it all out of me. Like, just get the stuff out of my body. 6, I'm just like in 6 and 7, I've done together. And recently, the 6 and 7 really hit home for me and really helped me. Like, just like 2 weeks ago, I was in a meeting going, why am I doing this? I'm like, I'm starting to really open I had a really block against like a segment of the folks in AA where I'm like, I have an intolerance for people who are intolerant, and it's kind of funny. And there's, I don't know, I don't want to get into the details, but like I had this, and I was like, how can I get healed with a bunch of people who don't seem healed to me? It's like this big hang up, and I was like, I need to open my mind. I love everybody, love everything, just move forward. And that was one of my character defects. I was being intolerant, and so like every one of these intolerances, I started to come back on me. But I was sitting there in this meeting, going, all right, everyone else, when they get done with this, they're like, their families come back, their jobs come back, all these things come back. I have no family except for my dad, who the last thing he said to me was, you're not even tough to be called a sissy. And I'm like, I don't want to hang out with that dude. So what do I get back? And then I'm reading this book, and I'm 2/3 of the way through, called A New Pair of Glasses by Chuck C. Peeps really told me to dig into this. And I was like, it's not something I get back. And I'm still going to get more out of this book, but like, it's not about what I get back. It's what I get to have, or what I get to give. And I am getting so much out of, especially the Fremont group, some of these folks rolling in for the first time, or like listening to people go back and forth about where they're hung up on their steps, and meeting people like Peeps. Peeps has been there for me every day, like almost every day while I'm going through this. And David and Michael R., my current sponsor, Jerry, and so many other people have like surrounded me and really helped me develop a program that I feel like I have a foundation to where I can actually love myself. I woke up this morning and loved myself. And I called that ex-girlfriend that I told her to fucking kick rocks. And I didn't want to see her. And I stacked up her stuff in my living room, and told her come get her shit. And this is like a New Jersey Jewish Disney princess. If they were going to do a Jewish Disney princess, she would be her. And so I always say, like, I feel like crap, I made a Disney princess cry. And I called today, she's like 6 months of having twins. And I gave her a quick call today, just say, hey, happy 6 months. And we had a quick joke on the phone, but just being able to do that, like, lifted my heart. And I could talk more about my spiritual program and so forth, but I'm running out of I'm down to 35 seconds. And I really wish I'd got more into the program and less about the early stuff, but like I am getting so much out of this program. I feel like I'm actually growing every day, But most importantly, I'm not waking up every day asking God to take my life away. I'm asking God every day to help me find a path so I have been of service to a lot of folks in the state of Washington, but I think I can actually go a step further with his help or their help. I don't believe God is a person, so it can't be male or female. But anyway, that's another day, another debate. So I am really digging into this program, and I'm getting a lot out of it, and I'm meeting so many great people like Baby G and Riff Raff, and that has all just been a wonderful expansion to my life. So thank you all, and thank you for letting me speak today.
Right on.
Yeah.